Good evening. Today I'll be discussing some of the concepts that we have learned over the past few weeks and some questions pertaining to that. I'm not discussing everything because you can always go back to the lectures and see that, but I'm just discussing some things. If there are any doubts, please stop me or ask questions on the in the chat box. Let me just share my screen. Um, so, over the first few weeks, we have been trying to understand how living organisms are, what are the classifications that divide living organisms in different groups, how they have evolved from some of their ancestors, what is the basic building block of a living organism, which is a cell. What are these cells made up of? What are the cellular processes that govern this? And what are different physiological systems present within a living organism? First, coming to classification, as you know, there are these seven stages to classification, with the highest being kingdom, which is very general, which has many organisms, and the most specific one is species, which has very closely related organisms. Most of these organisms have very close common ancestors if you were to see how they have evolved. So during evolution, you look at how when you're studying two animals, you look at how closely they are related, and depending on that, you can put where both of these animals should be placed. For example, you have a new you discover a new organism, then you can compare it to all of the existing classified animals or plants or fungi, and see which is the most similar, which has the most characteristics, which are the most common characteristics, and then accordingly you place it in that group. So this is one of the sentences that you can use to remember all of this. So it's kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, and just let me genus and species. So as you go down this list, you become more specific. When it comes to kingdom, there is a 5 kingdom classification that was proposed by R.H. Whitaker, which is dependent on different properties of the animal. Based on these properties, there are 5 kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. These are then further divided according to all of these classes. The Monera is the only one which is prokaryotic in nature. The others are all eukaryotic. And as you go from Monera to fungi, Plantae, and Animalia, the complexity of the organism increases a bit. So monerans are mostly unicellular and prokaryotic in nature. Protista, on the other hand, is unicellular and eukaryotic. Fungi is multicellular, does not have chloroplasts usually, and eukaryotic. Plantae and Animalia are both multicellular and eukaryotic. There are certain fungi which are unicellular in nature, but they are just one group. When it comes to the nuclear status of all of this, apart from monerans, every other kingdom has a nucleus, has a well-defined nucleus. It's not that monerans don't have a DNA. They have the DNA, but it's not organized in form of a nucleus. except for Monera protistans, everything else has a higher order of body organization. These two have cellular level, whereas as you go up, it becomes multicellular, tissue level, or organ system level of organization. Uh, the mode of nutrition also determines where the new organism will fall, if it's autotrophic, heterotrophic, or parasitic in nature, or saprophytic. Autotrophic means the organism is synthesizing its own food. Heterotrophic implies that the organism has depends on another organism or uh, organism for its food. Saprophytic usually means that the organism feeds on dead leaves, detritus, decaying animals, etc. There are some symbiotic relationship also observed in all of between these kingdoms in certain animals, but those are very specific relationships, and those have developed how because of which environment the animals have the organisms have grown in. These are some of the examples. Bacteria, algae are monerans. Chlamydomonas is protista, Rhizophus agaricus are fungus. Herbs, shrubs, and trees come under plantae. Fish, frog, crocodiles, birds, dogs, etc. All of them come on animal. Okay, so we talked about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. What are these exactly? Prokaryotic cells which are present in monerans, usually these are bacteria or archaea. They are typically very small in size, whereas eukaryotic cells are larger in size. Eukaryotics, as we discussed, DNA is absent in prokaryotes, whereas DNA is not present in form of a nucleus in prokaryotes, whereas in eukaryotes, it's present is enclosed in a nuclear envelope. DNA shape in case of prokaryotes is circular, and this has been sort of used in form of plasmids to make researchers' life easier, essentially. So the circular DNA that is found in prokaryotic cells has certain sequences to it, which makes it amenable for introducing various external DNA sequences, which is what we use while we do cloning of any DNA fragment. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, have a linear DNA shape, and the DNA that is found in eukaryotic cells is usually organized in form of chromosomes. There is a very high level of condensation that is seen in case of eukaryotic cells. Membrane bound organelles are absent in prokaryotes, whereas they are present in eukaryotic cells. Ribosomes, which make the proteins that are present within these cells, are smaller in size in prokaryotes, whereas in case of eukaryotes, it's larger in size, usually ATAs. Of course, these can be further broken down depending on on which subunits make up the ribosome. Usually, division in prokaryotic cells is a form of binary fission, whereas in eukaryotic cells, it's mitosis or meiosis. Mitosis is common in mitosis happens when one organism divides into two equal halves, two equal daughter cells, whereas meiosis is usually seen during gametogenesis, when sperm and ovum are made, because you need to decrease the DNA content in those cells. Cell wall is usually present in case of prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells may or may not have the cell wall, depends on which of the categories you are looking at. For example, in plants there is a cellulose-based cell wall, whereas in fungi is the chitin-based cell wall. Animals, on the other hand, do not have cell walls. Metabolism is mostly can be aerobic or anaerobic in case of prokaryotic cells, depends on where they are growing. If they are growing in a place where it's devoid of oxygen, then they will have an anaerobic based metabolism, and if such prokaryotic cells are placed in a aerobic condition, it might be toxic for eukaryotic cells. On the other hand, mostly aerobic. Okay, so we looked at uh, that there are different kinds of cells. When it comes to eukaryotic cells, they can have two forms. Either they can be either they can have a structure like a plant cell or a structure like an animal cell. So, and these, there can be different organelles depending on which cell you are looking at. For example, chromosome is something that is common to both. It will be thread-like structures present within the nucleus, which carries genetic information. Endoplasmic reticulum is usually found near the nucleus, covering the nucleus. It is essentially a network of membranous tubules and sacs. Endoplasmic reticulum is of two types: rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum usually has ribosomes attached to it, and this is mostly the site where a lot of protein synthesis happens. So the DNA gets transcribed to RNA inside the nucleus, and this RNA can come out, reach the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the synthesis of proteins can happen at this place. Whereas smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not have ribosomes attached to it. This can be a site of lipid synthesis as well. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So ER is involved in protein and lipid synthesis, and as well as transport of molecules within the cells. Golgi bodies are stacks of flattened membrane bound sacs which have vesicles associated with it. The Golgi bodies are responsible for sorting, modifying, putting on post-translational modifications onto the proteins, making sure that the proteins are sent to the proper location, etc. Ribosomes, which are made up of RNA and protein, can be in cytoplasm freely moving or can be attached to the ER, and these are the sites of protein synthesis. Mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, is a double membrane bound organelle with inner cristae, and mitochondria is one of the organelles which has its own DNA, called as mitochondrial DNA. Usually the mitochondrial DNA is also used in case of forensics to determine parentage in certain cases. This mitochondrial DNA is thought to be a evolutionary trait wherein a larger cell at one point had one theory is that a larger cell at one point had encapsulated a smaller prokaryotic cell, and this mitochondrial DNA is a remnant of that. Mitochondria is used within the cell to generate ATP through cellular respiration, and therefore known as the powerhouse of the cell. Chloroplast is only found in plant cells and certain algae, if I'm not wrong. It's a double membrane bound organelles with internal thylakoid membranes. These are sites of photosynthesis within the plants, and it contains chlorophyll for capturing light energy. Chloroplast can also have its own DNA. So mitochondria and chloroplast are two such organelles which can have their own DNA. Vacuoles are membrane bound sacs filled with fluid or sap. These are usually larger in plants. So plants usually have a large central vacuole, and that's it, whereas animals have very small vacuoles spread throughout the cytoplasm. These vacuoles are usually used for storage of nutrients, waste, water, etc. And especially in plants, the central vacuole has this function of maintaining the pressure inside the cell so that the cell does not collapse on itself. Lysosomes are membrane-bound vesicles containing digestive enzymes. These are also known as suicide bags because the digestive enzymes present in these lysosomes can digest the its own cell. So usually this is used, this fuses through to some uh, vesicle which has either some foreign material or some nutrients, and then it digests the material. The digested material can then be recirculated within the cell to make uh, to uh, be reused inside the cell. Okay, so now we know that the DNA is contained inside the nucleus in case of a eukaryotic cell. What is the DNA made up of? So DNA is, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is made up of these four nucleobases: C, G, A, and T. Cytosine, guanine, adenine, and thymine. The DNA can transcribe itself to make RNA or ribonucleic acid, which is made up of C, G, A, and U, cytosine, guanine, adenine, and uracil. If in case of eukaryotic cells, RNA is usually single-stranded in nature, whereas DNA is double-stranded in nature. Except for when replication happens. During replication, two of these strands separate out to make sure that the information is copied. The DNA molecule or RNA molecule has all of these four nucleobases, which is attached to a phosphodiester chain. So there can be various purine or pyrimidine bases, or cytosine and thymine make up the pyrimidine bases, whereas adenine and guanine make up the purine bases. And the base pairing happens such that cytosine always base pairs with guanine with 3 bonds, and adenine always base pairs with thymine with 2 bonds. This is because of how the structure of all of these molecules are. If adenine were to pair with guanine, then the distance between both of these alpha helices will be too much for the structure to be stable. If cytosine were to base pair with thymine, then the distance will be too small. Okay. Next, the other biomolecules that play a very important role are the carbohydrates, which can be of different types depending on what their function is. They can be monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, or polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are usually glucose, fructose, galactose, ribose, etc. Disaccharides are essentially two monosaccharides which have formed a bond between them. Sucrose, maltose, lactose, all of these are examples of disaccharides. Sucrose forms when there is a reaction between glucose and fructose. Maltose is a dimer of glucose essentially. And lactose forms when there is a reaction between glucose and galactose. Polysaccharides are complex carbohydrates which are formed of multiple monosaccharides. Cellulose, starch, glycogen, all of these are examples of polysaccharides. Carbohydrates are usually very important for energy dynamics within the cell. They can make up various structures within the cell as well. The other biomolecule that plays a very important role is lipids. Lipids can be of different types: simple, compound, derived. Simple lipids are usually fats, oils, waxes, etc. Compound lipids are essentially lipids plus some single moiety. This can be phospholipids, glycolipids, or sulfolipids, and this depends on what group is present with the lipids. Derived lipids are essentially modified compound lipids. These can be alcohol, fatty acids, sterols, isoprenoids, etc. Lipids have multiple functions. They have a very important function in signaling within the cell. They also are very important for making up various membrane structures within the cell. For example, the cell membrane, which is a phospholipid bilayer, is made up of 2 layers of phospholipids, which are arranged adjacent to, like internally to each other. The fatty acid chains are essentially present in the inner leaflet, whereas the head group is exposed to the extracellular space or intracellular space. This phospholipid bilayer membrane can also be uh, interspersed by other lipids such as glycolipids, cholesterol, etc. And all of these, the combination of all of these make sure how fluid the phospholipid bilayer is. The bilayer is essentially the covering that is going to prevent outside stuff to come inside the cell. It's going to ensure that there is a controlled release of whatever is outside to the inside of the cell, and it is also a site of various signaling uh, events. The next biomolecule that is very commonly found are proteins. Proteins are made up of amino acids. This is the usual structure of an amino acid, where there is a R group or a side chain, there is a amine group, and there is a carboxylic group. And depending on the R group and how these are modified, the function, the structure, and what kind of amino acid they are will vary. Multiple amino acids are usually connected via peptide bonds to make up one protein. So this is essentially the primary structure of a protein, which is a series of amino acids joined by peptide bonds. These, depending on what makes up the primary structure, the secondary structure is formed based on that. It can be alpha helices. There can be two types, alpha helices or beta sheets. There are also turns in case of secondary structure. The turns don't have any such sequence specificity to them. They are usually used to join alpha helices and beta sheets. Then the secondary structure is further folded to make up the tertiary structure. Multiple such tertiary structures can come together to make up quaternary structure. This is an example for the hemoglobin molecule, where four beta globin chains come together to form the hemoglobin molecule. Okay. So we know what different molecules are present in, what are the different molecules present within the cell. How are these formed? So this is the central dogma of life, which tells us how information is stored inside the cell and how it is processed. So the genetic information within the cell is usually stored in form of DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. Except there are exceptions, wherein in case of viruses, the information can be stored in form of RNA or single-stranded DNA, but that is a very specific case. DNA can copy itself via replication to make more copies of itself. This replication phenomenon is very common during the S phase of the cell cycle. DNA can transcribe itself via various transcription factors to make RNA. In case of viruses, the RNA can reverse transcribe itself to make DNA, which is one of the mechanisms how it infects hosts. In normal cells, not viruses, the information that is copied from DNA into RNA can further be used to make up the protein. From protein, making the RNA or DNA is not possible, because when a protein is made, there is a lot of modifications that goes through to make the final protein. Okay. Now that we have looked at all of the cellular processes that go on within the body, what makes up various organ systems within the body, which is the physiology of the body. So there are different systems in place to make sure that the body is functioning at an optimum pace. There is digestion, there is circulatory system, muscular system, nervous system, endocrine and excretory systems. I'll go through some of these, not everything, because we have already discussed this once. So, digestion is very important when it comes to uptake of nutrients and how these nutrients are stored and used up inside the body. When you eat food, it goes in within the mouth or the buccal cavity. This can then, through the esophagus, go into the stomach, which has a lot of acids. The stomach then essentially breaks down the food into simpler molecules that can be either digested further in the small intestine or can be absorbed in the small intestine. Liver and pancreas secrete various enzymes during this process, so that different molecules get absorbed properly. Then after stomach, the food enters the small intestine, and the junction at the stomach and small intestine is usually where liver, pancreas, gallbladder, all of these pour in the secretions. So make sure that optimum digestion occurs. A lot of absorption as well as breakdown happens in the small intestine. The breakdown of food usually happens in the first part of the small intestine, whereas a lot of absorption happens in the later half. The undigested food which still remains then goes into the large intestine. There can be some absorption in the starting part of the large intestine. In the later part, the undigested food goes to the rectum and waits to be ejected via anus. The food that goes through usually goes through an involuntary response, which is known as peristalsis, which is under the control of the autonomic nervous system. Okay. Next is the circulatory system, which is essentially the heart, the arteries and veins that circulate throughout the body. The oxygenated blood from heart goes towards different parts of the body, where it is taken up at the cellular level via capillaries. These capillaries are very thin, usually one red blood cell thick. So the red blood cells go in a single line. Then deoxygenated blood comes in to the heart, which can then be pumped into the lungs. At the lungs, because of the presence of the because at lungs there is exchange of gases, and then oxygenated blood comes in back into the heart, which can be pumped again. And this is a cyclic process that keeps on going throughout the lifetime of an individual. The right side of the heart receives deoxygenated blood and sends to the lungs, and the left side of the heart receives the oxygenated blood and from the lungs and sends it to the body. Next is the muscular system. So the complete human body is made up of different kinds of muscles. Heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Various organs which are under involuntary control are made up of smooth muscles. Rest of the body, which is under voluntary control, is made up of skeletal muscles. There is an organization to each of these muscles. This is just, which we have discussed, but this is just a recap of the skeletal muscle. If you look at a muscle, muscle is essentially made up of multiple muscle fibers, which is known as fascicles. If you look at individual muscle fiber or myofibril, they have an organization to them. And this is how the myofibril looks like. There is a periodic organization of thick and thin filaments. The thin filaments are usually actin filaments, and the thick filaments are myosin filaments. The distance between two Z lines makes up one sarcomere. When there is movement required, there is a power stroke that happens between the thick and thin filament, which creates a movement, a sliding motion between thick and thin filament, and that's how the muscle moves. So multiple such power strokes might happen at a single muscle fiber, and this the effect then gets compounded, and that's how movement occurs. Okay. The nervous system in an individual is of two types. It can be central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, or it can be peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is then divided into autonomic and somatic. Autonomic nervous system is sympathetic and parasympathetic, and somatic nervous system is has sensory input or motor output. Depending on the situation, one or uh, more of these may fire to make sure that the action is proper action to a stimulus is done. Okay. Are there any questions till now? Okay. If there are no questions, I will discuss some questions. Please feel free to answer them in the chat box. Okay. So the first question is, which experiment conclusively supported the modern chemical theory of origin of life by synthesizing amino acids in a simulated primitive environment? Reddy's experiment, Spallanzani's experiment, Miller-Urey experiment, or Pasteur's experiment? Someone wants to venture a guess? The answer is Miller-Urey experiment. Please, if you know the answer, please answer in the chat box. Okay. According to Lamarck's theory, the long neck of a modern giraffe is a result of a sudden genetic mutation in a single generation. The inheritance of characters acquired through continuous stretching to reach high leaves, natural selection favoring long-necked individuals during a struggle for existence, or special creation by a supernatural power. Anyone wants to venture a guess to what the answer is? Correct. The answer is B. The inheritance of characters acquired through continuous stretching to reach high leaves. Natural selection favoring long-necked individuals during a struggle for existence is a Darwinian theory. So Darwin proposed natural selection wherein there is survival of the fittest. Whereas Lamarck's theory was there is overuse of certain uh, organs, because of which they are inherited in the later individuals. Organs that have a similar basic structure and embryonic origin but perform different functions, such as a man's arm and a whale's flipper, are known as analogous organs, vestigial organs, homologous organs, or collective units. Correct. The answer is homologous organs. Analogous organs have same function but different structure. May or may not have different structure, but they have the same function, such as the bat wing and a bird wing. These are examples of analogous organs. Vestigial organs are organs which might have been useful in the ancestors but are not useful in the current, are not of any use in the current stage of the animal. For example, appendix is one of the vestigial organs. Connecting links are usually body parts or organisms even which have the properties of two different uh, organisms. So it forms like it is like a relative of sorts of both of these organisms. which makes sure that, which tells us that that two of these organisms have come up from a common ancestor. Okay. Which phase of eukaryotic cell cycle is characterized by the replication of chromosomal DNA and doubling of DNA content? G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase, M phase. Correct. It's S phase. If other people know the answer, please text in the chat box. Which organelle is popularly known as the powerhouse of the cell due to its role in generating ATP? Golgi bodies, lysosomes, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. Correct. The answer is mitochondria, C. In the classification of living organisms, which group is classified by having a three-chambered heart, moist glandular skin, and external fertilization? Reptilia, aves, mammalia, or amphibia? The correct answer is D, amphibia. Reptiles have a hardened skin. They also have a three-chambered heart, but the moist glandular skin is not present in reptiles. They also don't have external fertilization. They have internal fertilization, but external development in some cases. Aves have a feathered skin. They don't have moist skin. They also don't have external fertilization. They have internal fertilization and external development. Mammalia have, depending on where the mammal is, they have may have moist glandular skin, but mostly one of the uh, characteristics of mammalia is that they have they have hair on the skin. And they have a four-chambered heart. So does Aves. Uh, ex- Again, mammalia does not have external fertilization. It has internal fertilization and internal development. So the answer is amphibia. In the process of glycolysis, what is the net balance of ATP molecules produced from the oxidation of one glucose molecule? 2 ATP, 30 ATP, 8 ATP, or 38 ATP? The correct answer is 8 ATP molecules. Just look at the net balance sheet once. I don't have it here. Which type of lipid is characterized as being an ester of a higher fatty acids with a higher monohydroxyaliphatic alcohol and is used in cosmetics and ointments, triglycerides, phospholipids, waxes, steroids? Anyone? The correct answer is waxes. C. This is this has this is usually used in cosmetics, ointments, has a, and has all of the other characteristics as well. According to Chargaff's rule, which of the following statements is true regarding DNA composition? The amount of adenine is equal to guanine. DNA is always single-stranded. Amount of purines, A plus G, is equal to the amount of pyrimidines, C plus T. The base ratio, A plus T by G plus C, is same for all species. Correct. The answer is C. The amount the amount of purines A plus G is equal to the amount of pyrimidine C plus T. Uh, the first statement, it's always A equal to T and C equal to G, because these would base pair together, and DNA may be single stranded in certain conditions, but in higher animals it's double stranded. In a polypeptide chain, which type of bond connects individual amino acids? Hydrogen bond, peptide bond, glycosidic bond, or ionic bond? Correct. The answer is peptide bond. Which technique is used to stain amino acids after performing thin layer chromatography, TLC? Sanger reagent, dancyl chloride, bromophenol blue, or ninhydrin? Correct. The correct answer is ninhydrin. Which theory of evolution suggests that organs used frequently become more developed while those not used degenerate? Darwinism, mutation theory, Lamarckism, and special creation. Correct. We just discussed this. It's Lamarckism, whereas Darwinism is survival of the fittest. Special creation suggests that all of the animals that are present today were also there billions of years ago and were created by God or some higher power, but that does not explain extinction events because of which it was not considered. Mutation theory suggests that new organisms develop by random mutations between random mutations to existing organisms, uh, but that is there have been certain experiments that have shown that that is invalidated. Which sequence is a common prokaryotic ribosomal binding site located 10 base pairs upstream of the initiation codon? Kozak sequence, Shine-Dalgarno sequence, Pribnov box, or inverted repeats? Correct. The correct answer is Shine-Dalgarno sequence. In a polymerase chain reaction or PCR, what is the typical temperature range for annealing step? 94 degrees to 96 degrees Celsius, 70 to 74 degrees Celsius, 50 to 65 degrees Celsius, or 37 to 40 degrees Celsius? Correct. The answer is C, 50 to 65 degrees Celsius. So a typical PCR polymerase chain reaction has three steps. There is denaturation, which occurs usually between 90 to 95, 96 degree, sometimes at 98 degrees Celsius. There is annealing, which happens between 50 to 60, 65, 70 degrees Celsius max. So the annealing depends on the primer itself. Let me just the annealing depends on the primer, what the sequence of the primer is and what sequence it has to bind to. And when we get a new primer, for example, we have to find out what the annealing temperature is. Uh, the third step is extension, which occurs between 68 to 72, 74 usually. And depending on how long of a sequence you are amplifying and what polymerase you are using, the duration of the extension time varies. Usually, the polymerases come with a preset uh, value that 1 kb of extension will happen in 30 seconds or 20 seconds. and depending on that, how much ever extension length you have, you can increase the extension time. Which post-translational modification marks a cellular protein for degradation via the proteasome? Phosphorylation, glycosylation, methylation, or ubiquitination? Correct. The answer is ubiquitination or ubiquitination. Phosphorylation is a um, very important modification. Uh, it is also a reversible modification. Phosphorylation. It is very essential in various signaling events. Glycosylation is usually irreversible and happens after, while the protein is in the Golgi or ER. And finally, if it's a surface protein, if it's a membrane protein, if you look at the uh, surface of the membrane, you find that there are a lot of glycosylated proteins. Methylation is another important post-translational modification. It is very common in histones. It may or may not happen in other proteins, but with histones, it's very common. There are depending on what the methylation status of the histone is, it can be a heterochromatin or a euchromatin. It can be an inactive gene or an active gene. During DNA replication, which enzyme is responsible for joining Okazaki fragments on the lagging strand? DNA gyrase, DNA ligase, primase, DNA polymerase. Correct. The correct answer is B, DNA ligase. What is the primary role of side scatter channel or SSC in flow cytometry? To measure cell size, to measure refractive index, to measure cytosolic structure or granularity, or to detect DNA content? Anyone else wants to answer this? Okay. The answer is correct. The answer is C, to measure cytosolic structure and granularity. Which level of organization is characterized by tissues grouping together to perform specialized functions as seen in platyhelminthes? Cellular level, tissue level, organ level, or organ system level? Correct. The answer is C, organ level. Multiple tissues essentially come together to form one organ. Which organ is responsible for producing Cassell's intrinsic factor necessary for absorption of vitamin B12? Small intestine, liver, stomach, pancreas. Correct. The answer is C, stomach. It's also essential that the pH level is very acidic for the for the activation of the intrinsic factor. What is the primary function of the ileocecal valve in the digestive system? To secrete digestive enzymes for fat breakdown, to prevent the backflow of fecal contents from the colon to the ileum, to regulate the flow of chyme into duodenum, to absorb water and electrolytes. Anyone wants to answer this? The correct answer is B. It essentially prevents backflow from colon to ileum. In human mouth, which type of teeth are specifically required for tearing meat? Incisors, molars, premolars, or canines? Wrong. The correct answer is canines. Incisors are the one which are usually used for at the front for biting. Canines are slightly towards the side, and usually these are used for tearing meat. Especially in case of carnivorous animals, canines are very well developed, or in omnivorous animals. Premolars are and molars are usually used for grinding of food to ensure that it's digested properly later. That's it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask now. Okay. I can stay back for a couple of more minutes. If anyone has any questions, either they can speak up or post the question in the chat box. If not, that's the end of the session. Thank you for attending. Since there are no questions, I'll end the session here. Thank you.